Hello and welcome to Network West Virginia's Legally Speaking. This program is designed to educate and inform you, our local viewers, about the legal practice in our great state and how the law can affect you. Each week on Network West Virginia's Legally Speaking, we will feature some of the most progressive attorneys in the state, and you'll hear direct from them on a wide range of issues. You'll also be able to ask questions and make comments for future episodes by using the Contact Us page on networkwestvirginia.com. You can also find us on Twitter at NetworkWV. And now the host of Network West Virginia's Legally Speaking, Amy Strobel.
Good evening and welcome to Legally Speaking on Network West Virginia. I'm Amy Strobel, joined by Brent Van Dyson of the Van Dyson Law Firm. And Brent, we are going to talk about nursing home care for single people tonight. Last month, we were able to talk about nursing home care and planning for that nursing home care for married couples. But as we are going to learn tonight, there are differences that a single person needs to consider when planning for nursing home care. Welcome, Brent.
Welcome, Amy.
Now, you have spent many years in your elder law care practice helping people understand the complexities of affording nursing home care and also navigating the Medicare and Medicaid system. One of the issues that you help people understand is how to afford that nursing home care if they are single. Let's delve right into it. What do you need to know?
Sure. Well, first of all, for a single person to qualify for Medicaid to pay a nursing home bill, their countable assets have to be below $2,000. And as we talked in previous episodes, if you're a single person going into a nursing home, you can own a home as long as the value is less than $536,000, and as long as you intend to return there if you get better. You can own one automobile. You could have household goods and personal belongings, a prepaid funeral, and a small life insurance policy with $1,500 of face value insurance. Otherwise, you can only have $2,000 in assets.
Okay, so I'm guessing most people have more than $2,000 in assets.
Many do.
Okay.
So the issue that we discussed last episode, when you have a spouse at home, there are some exemptions that allow you to save part of your assets for the spouse, even possibly all of the assets using an annuity. Those things are out when we have a single person. Generally speaking, that single person is going to qualify for Medicaid once they have spent down to $2,000. So then we're looking at how might they be able to spend their funds, and if they don't have a whole lot of things to spend them on, there are some strategies involving gifts, making gifts and returning those funds. Gifting, though, can be very dangerous because one of the common mistakes I see people make, they might have a health scare and realize, oh my goodness, I'm likely going to need to go into a nursing home here soon. Let me just give my home away to my kids. Let me put my child onto a bank account, making them a joint owner, thinking that that does something when it doesn't. But if you're giving your home away, now you've just created a situation where you're not going to qualify for Medicaid, because to try to deter people from making gifts to reduce their estate, every $5,700 that you give away equals 1 month that you're not eligible for Medicaid. And when you apply for Medicaid, they look back over the past 5 years, add up any gifts that you've made, and if that total is, say, $60,000, you're going into a nursing home. Once you are penniless and have no way to pay for the nursing home care, then you're going to not be eligible for 10 months because of making $60,000 in gifts.
Okay, so I kind of heard here 5 years. Okay, so what and when do you need to start making some decisions about your finances and the best way to appropriate them or gift them or whatever we need to do? When do people need to start thinking about this?
Sure. Well, the idea is for pre-planning to do that when you're healthy, 5 years in advance at least of when you think you may need nursing home care. In the next 2 episodes, I'm going to talk about pre-planning strategies. Pre-planning when it comes to the home will be in episode 4. Then pre-planning when it comes to both financial assets and the home, possibly by using a trust. I'll cover that in episode 5.
Okay, all right. Is gifting different than putting something in a trust?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. If you're setting up a trust, you're doing that to preserve those assets for you, whereas if you've just made a gift, you've given up all control over that. So trusts are generally not something that we use when we've got somebody going into a nursing home today. If we've got somebody going into a nursing home today and they're single, then we're looking at first, how might we be able to spend their remaining assets in a way that would be responsible and also provide them with some protective benefit for those assets. And if we don't have anything left to spend them on, if they have a trustworthy family member or friend, then we have this strategy of gift and return, which I'll get into in just a minute. I want to first explain some of the strategies for spending.
Great. Yeah, let's say I'm a single person coming to you within that 5-year period. So I've missed my 5-year period. I'm coming to you and saying I need some help. What do you tell people?
Sure. So if you're going into a nursing home today and you're single, it's a great idea to hire an elder law attorney to help you through that process, because when most people go into this, you know, first of all, if you're single, you're the one in the nursing home, you're the one in poor health. You might not be the one who's involved in this process because you may not be physically or mentally able to do so. So sometimes that means that there's a family member or friend who's doing this Medicaid eligibility process for you. So the issue becomes, first of all, what are you going to spend your excess assets on? Because if you have more than $2,000 in savings, for example, or if you had a large life insurance policy that had some cash value, you're not going to qualify for Medicaid until you spend those funds. And so that would mean that you would be private pay for care in a nursing home, you know, assuming that Medicare's 100 days has already ended.
And Brent, quickly, what does it cost? What does a nursing home cost today?
Anywhere between $7,000 a month to $10,000 a month is about the average monthly cost. So, you know, a common mistake I'd see people make, you know, let's say you're single, you've got $30,000, you go into a nursing home, and until you qualify for Medicaid, you're paying the nursing home bill $10,000 a month until all of your savings are gone. See, to spend those monies to become eligible does not mean you have to spend them paying for nursing home care. So we're going to look at strategies to spend those monies in a better way. For example, funeral and burial costs. You can have a prepaid funeral and burial plan by setting that up through a local funeral home, picking out the goods and services like the casket and such, and then in doing that, prepaying that in cash, or by assigning a life insurance policy to prepay that. So if we had if you had a life insurance policy that had $7,000 cash value but paid $10,000 at your death, don't cash the policy in and go spend $7,000 at the funeral home. You would assign the rights to receive the payment under that policy to the funeral home, so that at your passing, the full $10,000 is paid out, and that protects the cash value in the policy in that case. Also, you know, if you had $30,000 and you were going into a nursing home, and if you hadn't prepaid your funeral and burial expenses, if you didn't do that, then you have probably just pushed off that responsibility onto other family members, children perhaps, because if you spent every penny privately paying for care and didn't take care of funeral and burial, you know, that's a sizable expense that could have otherwise been prepaid. And there are other things you can spend monies on to become eligible as well.
What are some other things you spend money on?
First of all, you're allowed to have one automobile, and the value of that automobile does not matter. And remember, when you're going into a nursing home, yes, for many people, it is going to be where they're going to live for the rest of their days, but not for everybody. So if you're going into a nursing home and you had an old car that was worn out, and you needed to spend $30,000, you could trade in that old car, purchase a new vehicle, spend the $30,000 to do that. So you're allowed to have one automobile and the value doesn't matter, and it's okay to spend those funds in that matter. Now, that may not be ideal for many people because they may realize, hey, I'm never going to be able to drive and that's not an option for me. So what are some other things?
Well, what else?
You can own a home and qualify for Medicaid as long as the value is less than $536,000. So if there were some updates or repairs that needed to be done, maybe new floor coverings, new appliances, remodel the bathroom to make it handicap accessible, put in a ramp so it's handicap accessible to get in and out. That way, if you can recover and go home, you've spent those monies to fix up your home to accommodate your needs when you get there, instead of just spending that at the nursing home. Exactly.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to get some more ideas on how to spend your money smartly before going into a nursing home. Stay with us. Welcome back to Legally Speaking on Network West Virginia. Brent Van Dyson and I are talking about nursing home care for single people. Brent, before the break, we were talking about ways to spend down so that you can qualify for Medicaid. We've covered purchasing a vehicle, funeral and burial expenses, and some home renovations, remodeling. What else can people use their money to purchase or do services, goods before they go into nursing homes so that they can qualify for Medicaid?
Sure. Another example would be paying off debt. So if you found yourself going into a nursing home, you needed to spend $30,000 before you could become eligible, then if you had a mortgage against your home, you could pay that down or pay that off. If you had a car loan and you had some funds there, $30,000 or so, you could pay that off as well. So paying off debts is another good way to do that. If you needed household furnishings, again, because you can own furnishings and personal belongings in your home, they don't count the value of those things. So that's an acceptable way to spend funds at all.
Anything else?
The main focus here is on spending and not giving, okay? Because if you're, you can't just give $5,000 to a child and then expect the Medicaid program to be able to cover that.
Okay.
They're gonna penalize you. So often I'll come across clients that, let's say you had $60,000, you're going into a nursing home, your home is in just fine shape, doesn't need anything, you've got a newer car, don't need that, don't have any debts.
Let's say you already have your burial costs taken care of. What do you do?
Exactly. So then we're looking at a strategy that I call gift and return. So basically the Medicaid rules work this way. If you make a gift of $60,000 and you apply for Medicaid within 5 years of making that gift, then they are going to reject your application, and in doing that assign a penalty. So remember, for every $5,700 given, that equals 1 month that Medicaid won't pay for care. So in this case, if we have a parent who's given their child $60,000 and now that parent is in the nursing home, they're penniless, they've spent everything that they've had, and now they're applying for Medicaid, they're going to get rejected. And we know that once we apply and get rejected, this 10-month penalty is set. If the parent and the child do nothing else, at the end of month 11, the parent is going to be eligible for Medicaid.
Okay, but who has, in that 10 months, who's paying that bill?
Exactly, because the parent can't stay in the nursing home for free. The nursing home has to get paid. They have employees and insurance and things like that that they have to pay. So here's how this strategy works. In some cases, if we have a client with, say, $60,000, they're going to go into a nursing home. They have a trustworthy child or family member. They're going to give the child the rest of their financial assets. We're going to apply for Medicaid and get rejected. Now, the way the penalty rules...
So you do go through that process?
Yes. Oh, yes, and this is intentional. Now, the way the penalty rules work, if the child who's received the $60,000 gift gives it back all at once to the parent, the penalty rules say that the penalty goes away completely. But the problem is now the parent has $60,000 and they can't qualify for Medicaid until they've gotten down to $2,000. So the other way the penalty rules work are like this. If you give part of the gifted funds back over a period of time, what winds up happening is you reduce the amount of the penalty period to the point where you're still holding on to part of the gifted funds.
Okay.
And this is kind of a difficult concept,
it
but
is.
I'll explain it month by month.
All right, this is when you need an attorney.
Exactly.
This is when you can't do this alone.
This is not something you could do
Okay.
on your own.
All right, but talk us through it.
Okay, so we've applied for Medicaid, we've gotten rejected. Before we applied for Medicaid, the parent went into the nursing home. The child is now holding on to $60,000. We apply for Medicaid and get rejected. So we've just applied, got rejected. We're in month number 1. We have this timeline. Month number 1, month number 10. But month number 1, the nursing home is charging $6,000. So month number 1, the child withdraws $6,000 from the account that they deposited the $60,000 in. And then they deposit that into their parent's account.
Okay.
So when they've deposited that money into the parent's account, giving them back $6,000. Remember our penalty timeline?
10
month
months.
number 1,
Yeah.
month number 10. Guess how much time gets chopped off the penalty?
How much?
1 month. So now the penalty's down to 9 months.
But do you have to use that $6,000 to pay that first month bill?
Exactly. So now the parent uses that $6,000 to pay that first month's bill. So what we have done here is we've given the parent the ability to pay for month number 1. So the nursing home is happy, the parent is getting the care that they need, and we have reduced the penalty from 6 months to 9 months. We do this again month number 2, giving the $6,000 back to the parent. That gets deposited into their account. They can pay the nursing home bill for month number 2. Now guess what happens to our timeline? It goes from 9 months to 8 months. So what happens is we keep marching along until we get to this point where the number of months that have gone by is equal to or greater than the number of months remaining on the penalty. So in this case, after we do this for 6 months, we have given, the child is given back to the parent a total of $36,000. The child is still holding on to $24,000. So at this point, we go back to the DHHR and reapply for Medicaid. And we're showing the caseworker, yes, we had the parent made a gift of $60,000 in the beginning. Now the child is given back $36,000. The child is still holding on to $24,000. So refigure the gift amount and the penalty. And what they do is the caseworker then treats the $24,000 gift as if that's all that was ever given away 6 months ago. And see, the penalty on a $24,000 gift is 4.5 months. Here we are sitting at the end of month number 6, having used the parent's money each month, giving that back to them to pay through this point. So the bottom line here is we've been able to save $24,000 of the parent's money that the child is holding on to. So now the child could use that money to make sure that if the parent ever needs to come home from the nursing home, the parent's funds weren't all depleted. The child is still holding on to these funds. Now, in a nursing home setting, when you're qualified for Medicaid, you know, they pretty well cover all of your needs. I mean, you won't go into a nursing home and be able to tell who's paying $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 a month or who's receiving their care into the Medicaid program. It's the same care. Some differences, though, would be private room versus semi-private room. If you're receiving payment through Medicaid, you're going to have a roommate unless it's medically necessary that you don't, and that's a rare case. There are some nursing homes that will allow a person receiving Medicaid payment for nursing home care to be in a private room if a family member will pay the difference, which might be $300 or $400 a month. So if it's important that the parent in the nursing home have a private room, this fund of $24,000 that the child has could be used to cover that. So one other thing.
You make this sound very easy, but yes, what is the other thing?
One other thing is, you know, being in a nursing home, yes, it's 24/7 care, but it's not hands-on 24/7. I think the direct patient contact ratio is probably something like 1 hour of direct patient contact during a given day.
But if there's an emergency, you have immediate help versus if you were in a home, you could be alone and not be able to get to a phone.
Still, some some people being in a nursing home those hours may find themselves being lonely and desiring a companion.
Okay.
So if the child isn't able to be there to be the companion for the parent, they've got a fund of $24,000. You know, they might be able to hire some retired person to go
Sure.
sit with their parent during the waking hours to make sure that their parent is comforted. And if their parent can't speak because of their disability, then that person could be, you know, their speaking voice.
Sure.
Sure.
These are, I know this is, again, this is when you have the experience that you have working with the law, understanding the law, but you also understand elderly people, you've worked with them, that your insight is wonderful. So we're going to get a little more insight from Brent in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back to Legally Speaking. Brent Van Dyson and I are discussing nursing home care for single people tonight. Brent, we were just talking about when you gift and then you have to, the children return part of the gift to pay for the nursing home care, but luckily with the right strategy and with an attorney to help you, you can keep some of that money. What are some smart ways to spend that little leeway of money you have there?
Sure. Well, one of the things that I mentioned, you can own a home and qualify for Medicaid.
Sure.
One of the issues is that once you've qualified for Medicaid, your income, your Social Security or pension checks keep coming, you only get to keep $50 a month. The rest of that monthly income goes to the nursing home.
Okay.
Although you could have enough to pay your health insurance, that's it. So then, yes, you can keep your home, but at $50 a month,
yeah,
you wouldn't have enough money to take care of your personal needs and cover all of your expenses with your home. So by doing this gift and return strategy in the example I gave, there's $24,000 that could be used to pay for maintenance, taxes, insurance, fuel oil, mortgage if you still have it, exactly. Now remember though, if you own a home and qualify for Medicaid, if you're the last living owner on the deed, the state can go against your home, place a Medicaid lien, and recover the costs of nursing home paid against that home. We're going to cover that though in the very next episode of how to deal with that. But the point I want to make here is that if you're a single person and you find yourself going into a nursing home today, if you had $60,000, $100,000, $150,000, we can generally, utilizing this gift and return strategy, we can generally save about 50% to 45% of the financial funds that you have. There are also options available to save the home as well, which I'll discuss that in the next episode.
So what is a smarter strategy, spending down or the gift and return?
Usually we do both. If there's if there's some legitimate thing to spend the monies on that makes sense, then we're going to spend those monies first because there's no penalty with spending. That's how you qualify, whether you're spending money to, you know, pay off bills, fix up your home, buy a new car, pay for funeral and burial, that's all fine. If there's a need, we're going to suggest that you spend the assets to do that as opposed to gifting. And then if there isn't a need to spend, now we're looking at ways to do the gift and return to protect assets.
Okay, and you know I love asking you this, but at what point do you need to get an attorney involved in these kind of decisions?
Sure. I mean, certainly at the moment that that a person goes into a nursing home, would be ideal to get me involved. Even if Medicare is initially paying the bill, at some point, you know, those rehab benefits are going to stop.
Okay.
But a very important item that is necessary to be able to help is a power of attorney document. You know, if the person winds up in a nursing home because of a stroke and they can't communicate, then that child has to have a general durable power of attorney to be able to handle their financial affairs. So that's something else that you could do to be prepared in case you come into that situation. But the bottom line is, if you're going into a nursing home, or if your parent or other loved ones going into a nursing home, no spouse living in the community, then at that point that would be an ideal time to hire us to help through the Medicaid application process.
Sounds perfect. You make it sound easy. And it usually sounds very complicated to me, as I'm sure it does to many of our viewers. Yeah. So thank you, as always, for joining us tonight on Network West Virginia's Legally Speaking. We invite our viewers to submit any questions you have about nursing home care for single people or any elder care legal issues to Brent here at the station, and we'll try to answer some of those questions for you on future shows. We enjoy hearing from our viewers, and thank you for joining us tonight. Good night.
You've been watching Network West Virginia's Legally Speaking. The views expressed on this show are that of our guest attorney and not the host, sponsors, or advertisers, and should not be considered as personal legal advice. If you have a specific legal issue, please speak with an attorney in person. For more information on schedules, appearing on, or sponsoring this or any Network West Virginia show, please use the Contact Us page on networkwestvirginia.com.
It starts with something little, like taking a first step, and then another, and another. And if you do it, and your friends do it, and their friends do it, soon we'll be walking our way to awareness, support, and an end to Alzheimer's disease. And that would be big.
Grab your friends and family and start a team today. Register at alz.org.